A little girl was playing on the beach when suddenly a pair of arms grabbed her. Everyone looked at the ocean in horror, only to find that the water was rapidly receding. In the next second, the receding water surged into a monstrous wave, rushing toward them. Sensing the impending danger, tourists fled inland, but it was already too late. An unprecedented tsunami instantly swallowed the fleeing people, surging into the bustling coastal city like a beast. Even the tourists who had escaped inland were not spared. Within seconds, the surging water engulfed every corner of the city. Shoppers in the mall were struck with panic as the water crashed in. They could do nothing but be ruthlessly ravaged by the disaster. At the same time, the raging water rushed into the underground parking lot. Mall employee Ryan was in his car looking for repair tools when the flood flipped his vehicle multiple times before he could react. The next moment, the rolling water immediately engulfed the couple. Some people were turned into corpses instantly. The unstoppable water continued to pour into the mall. Another disaster struck in the blink of an eye. When everything calmed down, the mall turned into a watery world, with floating corpses everywhere, as if it had turned into a hell on earth. It was a horrible sight. Due to the suddenness of the incident, Ryan, who was trapped in his car, woke up from his coma. He quickly looked around and realized he was stuck inside, with water still seeping in. Fortunately, he quickly found a screwdriver inside the car. Ryan aimed the screwdriver at the car window, took a deep breath, and smashed the glass. Once the car was completely filled with water, he swam out. When Ryan surfaced, the scene above left him stunned. He looked around and saw no signs of life. Suddenly, a huge wave rose behind him. The next moment, something yanked Ryan into the water, terrifying him. Panicked, Ryan surfaced again and hurriedly headed toward the ruins. By then, the unknown underwater creature was already chasing him, but Ryan had climbed up. Ryan quickly shone his flashlight into the water and saw a massive shadow. This scared Ryan out of his wits. Luckily, by this time Ryan had already moved far away from the water, but when he climbed to higher ground, he was once again shocked. All he saw were horrifying corpses everywhere. Besides Ryan, there was also a young couple trapped in a car. Even though Heather screamed her lungs out, no one could hear her. Fortunately, no water had entered the car, so they were not in immediate danger. However, the strange noises from the water kept them on edge. Suddenly, a weird sound came from behind the car, and the dog started barking frantically. Heather, curious, climbed to the back seat to investigate, but the next second, she was scared out of her wits. She quickly returned to her seat and urged her boyfriend to call for help. Unfortunately, their phones were dead. As they started to blame each other, the dog got spooked. They saw something swimming outside, which frightened them into trying to escape the car. Kyle wanted to use his girlfriend's high heel to break the car window, but Heather immediately rejected the idea, calling him an idiot. Kyle was left speechless. Heather then pulled out a nail clipper from her purse and fiddled with the sunroof mechanism, which opened immediately. Kyle was stunned to see this, never realizing his car had such a feature. Kyle then poked his head out to check the surroundings, which caught Ryan's attention. Seeing survivors, Ryan was overjoyed. However, their loud talking attracted a massive creature. Heather noticed the terrifying sight and quickly pulled Kyle back into the car. They saw clearly that it was a huge shark swimming slowly in front of the car. Heather started sweating and felt increasingly nervous. Unexpectedly, the shark, hearing the dog bark, suddenly rammed into their car. They were terrified and could do nothing but stay inside the car in fear. The shark swam slowly past the back of the car again. Heather kept blaming her boyfriend for putting them in danger just for a moment of thrill. At this moment, the shark outside had fixed its eyes on them and began ramming the car repeatedly, trying to break a hole in it. Terrified, Heather and Kyle didn't want to stay in the car and wait to die. They quickly stuck their heads out and shouted for help to Ryan. Seeing the shark about to attack again, Ryan urgently told them to retreat back into the car. Luckily, they moved quickly and narrowly escaped another attack. Kyle urged Ryan to do something. Ryan calmed Kyle, telling him to stay cool. He planned to create a diversion to lure the shark away and give them a chance to move to his car. With the water level rising, the sea was flooding into the car through the sunroof, leaving them with no choice. The shark was swimming menacingly in front of their car, but to divert the shark's attention, blood would be the best bait. Suppressing his fear and disgust, Ryan hacked off a limb from a nearby corpse, placing it in the water and stirring it around. trying to lure the shark away to buy them escape time. Soon, the shark was drawn to the strong scent of blood. Heather and Kyle decisively jumped into the water and swam frantically towards the other car. But midway, the shark suddenly changed direction and charged straight at them. As they were about to meet their doom, Kyle threw the dog to distract the shark. He then leaped onto the car roof, narrowly escaping danger. Losing her beloved dog left Heather heartbroken, and she bluntly said she'd rather sacrifice Kyle to save her dog. By this time, the shark was completely enraged and surfaced again, terrifying Ryan. They needed to find an exit quickly, but the way out was blocked by debris, leaving them with the staircase on the opposite side as their only escape route. So, Ryan carefully climbed along the overhead pipes towards the opposite side. Below him, the massive shark watched intently, forcing Ryan to climb forward, trembling. But soon, he struggled to move, and the slippery pipes caused Ryan to lose his footing and fall into the water. The shark, hearing the splash, swiftly swam towards Ryan. At this critical moment, Kyle yanked Ryan up, but due to the shark's impact, he lost his balance and fell into the water. The shark immediately went into action. Kyle struggled desperately to swim up but couldn't escape, and within seconds, the shark tore him to pieces. Kyle's accidental death showed that his fate was sealed the moment he left his dog behind. As Heather grieved, the dog surprisingly swam back to them. The barking instantly caught their attention. When the dog jumped into the water, the lurking shark heard the noise and attacked again, but as the shark approached, it realized the dog wasn't edible and turned away. Heather joyfully hugged her beloved dog, instantly putting her boyfriend's death out of her mind. Meanwhile, in the flooded mall, most people had died. Josh was the first to emerge from the water, followed by several other survivors. Everyone was desperately struggling in the water. Having been a lifeguard, Josh was in his element. He, along with another survivor, saved a police officer named Todd, who had a leg injury.
Jamie!
Dad!
Here, give me a hand.
However, Todd's daughter Jamie was a thief, often stealing due to her rebellious nature. Their relationship had always been strained because of this. Thanks to the tsunami, the relationship between father and daughter has been mended in this disaster. The remaining survivors climbed onto the shelves. Josh also spotted Tina, who was still in shock in the water. They were once lovers, and this disaster brought them together unexpectedly. Josh quickly helped Tina climb onto the shelves. The water level continued to rise, leaving the group of survivors trapped on the shelves with nowhere to go. They began to discuss how to save themselves. Josh had originally been a lifeguard. He got drunk during his engagement to Tina, so Tina's brother Rory went to do a routine check on the shark nets. Rory was attacked by a giant shark and died a gruesome death. Rory's death cast a heavy psychological shadow over both Josh and Tina. Feeling guilty, Josh quit his job as a lifeguard and took a position as a stock clerk at the mall. Tina moved to China to study dance. A year later, when Tina returned to Australia, she had a new boyfriend. So, when Josh mentioned that the only exits were the front door and the loading bay, Tina volunteered to go check the front door with her boyfriend Steven. Josh felt a mix of emotions. At this point, a heroic-looking man volunteered to check the loading bay, but Todd opposed this, because this man was robbing the mall before the tsunami hit. In reality, Doyle was a good thief, coerced into committing the robbery. He had neither killed nor set anything on fire, but Todd didn't trust him. Todd insisted that the mall security guard, Collins, check the loading bay exit. Unfortunately, the exits were all blocked by debris. As they were returning, a strange object floated towards them, immediately catching everyone's attention. Seeing the situation, Josh immediately felt something was wrong. With years of experience in sea rescue, he judged that there was something extremely dangerous in the water. Josh quickly called out for everyone to stay away from the water's edge. Tina listens and swims towards the shelves with Steven in tow. They were pulled up in time. Not far away, Collins remained in the water, still indifferent to the danger. In the next second, a powerful force suddenly dragged him underwater. Collins struggled to surface but to no avail. Bubbles kept emerging on the surface, but Collins was nowhere to be seen. Everyone was worried about him. In the next second, Collins suddenly screamed and leaped out of the water, startling everyone. Immediately, Collins was rapidly dragged to the edge of the shelf by an unknown creature. A panicked Collins clung desperately to the edge of the shelf, shouting for help. Jamie quickly reached out to grab Collins, but at that moment, Collins suddenly went still. Everyone was puzzled. Looking closely, they realized poor Collins had been torn apart by a shark. This horrified everyone. Oh my god, what kind of creature has such powerful bite force? Just as everyone was wondering, a dark shadow suddenly swam over from a distance, making everyone shiver. The dark shadow then crashed into the shelf, causing the female clerk Naomi to fall into the water. Fortunately, everyone pulled her out just in time. They cautiously peeked into the water and discovered a gigantic shark. Judging by its back, it was a 12-meter-long great white shark, capable of swallowing everyone here in one bite. This terrified everyone, and they stood motionless on the shelf. The shark was hovering around the shelves. It seemed to have tasted its prey and was now curious if the people on the shelf were also food. So the shark was reluctant to leave. Just at that moment, the building shook violently again. A high-voltage power line suddenly snapped and fell, sparking as it approached the water. If the high-voltage line touched the water, an explosion would occur instantly, leaving no chance for anyone to survive. Therefore, their immediate task was to quickly cut off the power supply. The main power switch was in the storage room across the water, and someone would have to wade through to turn it off. But with a bloodthirsty shark in the water ready to attack at any moment, everyone fell silent. Josh volunteered to go and turn off the switch. Tina, however, stood up to stop him, pointing out that the wound on his hand would only attract the shark. But Tina had an idea to let Steven go turn off the switch. Steven was dumbfounded, thinking it should be the mall staff's job, and besides, he didn't know the way. But Tina insisted that he go. Everyone looked at Steven with a mixture of awe and respect, and they dressed him in makeshift armor made from shopping carts and shelves to protect him from the shark. Worried about the potential danger, Steven solemnly told Josh to take good care of his girlfriend. With a snorkel in his mouth, Steven was ready, while those above held a long plastic tube. This way, Steven could breathe underwater and be pulled back when necessary. Soon, the shark picked up Steven's scent. Steven was so scared that he stuck to the shelf and didn't move. The shark swam past Steven, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Afterward, Steven boldly quickened his pace towards the storage room, with others supplying oxygen through the tube from above. Steven passed through a door and finally reached the storage room, but just 1 meter away from the switch, he found that his oxygen tube wasn't long enough. Fate always plays tricks, but Steven couldn't worry about that now. Taking a deep breath, he decisively pulled out the oxygen tube and then rushed forward to successfully shut off the switch. The crisis was finally averted, and everyone saw a glimmer of hope for survival. However, Steven had no way back. He could only desperately swim upward, trying to catch a breath through a tiny gap, but the iron armor on him was too heavy, making self-rescue impossible. In the end, he collapsed on the ground. It was a heroic death, albeit tragic. Tina burst into tears, full of self-reproach and sorrow. She couldn't understand why everyone around her couldn't escape death. Others were also affected by Tina's grief. Steven's death, however, temporarily ensured everyone's safety, allowing them to calm down for a moment. Doyle and Naomi began crafting a spear together. Some people started sharing their stories, which felt like their last words. Escaping from here was no easy feat. The shark was still circling in the water, instilling fear in everyone. As the water level gradually rose, they felt they would soon become shark food and knew they had to find a way out quickly. At this moment, Josh looked up and saw the ventilation duct on the roof. Suddenly getting a bold idea, he told Doyle to throw a rope over the duct. They could climb into the ventilation duct and escape this hellhole. Jessup, the mall manager eager to leave, volunteered to give it a try. Jessup tied the rope around his waist, and Josh and Doyle together hoisted him up. Jessup successfully opened the vent window. Unexpectedly, as he clung to the vent and prepared to climb up, a swarm of spider-like creatures poured out of the duct and rushed at him. This scared Jessup so much that he lost his grip and dangled midair. As Jessup tried to climb up again, the shark in the water, excited by the sight of prey, leapt up. The women, witnessing such a gruesome scene, screamed and completely lost their composure. In the next second, the shark bit off half of Jessup's body. The scene was utterly nauseating. Some people even lost their balance and fell from the shelf into the water. Doyle quickly threw Jessup's upper half into the water to distract the shark, successfully saving him. This shark was incredibly fierce, and it seemed inevitable that they would all become the shark's buffet. Doyle declared that they couldn't just sit and wait for death. They had to kill the shark that was eyeing them hungrily. He He looked at the pork and hooks on the opposite side and laid out his plan. If they could get the pork and hooks, they could use the pork as bait. When the shark eats the meat, its mouth will be firmly hooked on the hook and they can swim out in the opposite direction. But to get the pork, someone had to risk swimming to the other side. This time, Todd, with an injured leg, volunteered to go. Before setting off, he asked Josh to protect his daughter at all costs. Just as Todd was about to go down, Jamie, out of love for her father, without a second thought, dived into the water and swam desperately towards the opposite shelf. The shark, smelling Jamie's scent, immediately swam towards her. The survivors frantically banged on the shelves, creating noise to distract the shark from its target. However, the shark did not stop. As the shark was approaching, Jamie rolled into the counter to avoid it. The next second, the shark roared as it surfaced, still unwilling to give up. In desperation, Jamie grabbed a meat hammer and fiercely struck the shark's head. The shark, in pain, turned and swam away. Jamie hurriedly climbed the shelf, retrieved the hook and pork, then grabbed the rope Doyle had thrown and swiftly made her way back. But the shark turned back to attack again. The survivors quickly made noise to cover her. With everyone's help, Jamie was finally pulled up safely. The shark missed its target again. After catching their breath, Josh and Doyle immediately began preparing to fish for the shark. Josh kept glancing at Tina. The kind-hearted Doyle reassured him, saying, "Trust me, once this crisis is over, everything between you two will be fine." Josh then tied one end of the rope to the shelf. Noticing the pendant of Rory still hanging around Josh's neck, Tina told him it wasn't necessary, as it was all in the past. Taking this opportunity, Josh, burdened with guilt over Rory's death by a shark attack due to his mistake, finally expressed his deep apology to Tina. While they were talking, the others hooked the pork and threw it into the water, waiting for the shark to bite. The shark soon swam over but just glanced at it, seemingly uninterested in the stale pork. It seemed the shark was picky, only eating fresh, bloody prey. This made Kirby lose his patience completely. He suddenly pulled out a handgun and quickly ran to the other side, taking Naomi hostage. Kirby intended to use Naomi as bait to catch the shark. From the conversation between Kirby and Doyle, Todd finally realized that Kirby was the other robber. After the tsunami, Kirby had put his mask on someone else's face to confuse his identity and escape charges. Kirby had hidden very well, but now that he was desperate, he revealed himself again. Ignoring everyone's pleas, Kirby kicked Naomi into the water. Josh wanted to save Naomi, but Kirby forced him back at gunpoint. Seeing the shark about to attack Naomi, Doyle, in a critical moment, used an improvised spear to injure Kirby. Doyle now just wanted to be a good person. At the last moment, they successfully rescued Naomi from the shark. Since the shark wanted live bait, Doyle ruthlessly stabbed the hook into Kirby, using him as bait and pushing him into the water. The shark, smelling the blood, couldn't resist and lunged, swallowing Kirby whole. After a while, the water calmed down again. Sure enough, the shark's mouth was hooked. The rope tied to the shelf immediately went taut. They knew the shark was now trapped. Everyone, filled with hope for survival, quickly jumped into the water one by one, seizing the chance to escape. Meanwhile, Ryan, trapped in the underground garage, suddenly had an idea when he saw the fire pipes. He pulled out a steel pipe from under a car and started banging on the fire pipes, hoping someone would hear. To his surprise, the sound reached the first floor where Jamie, about to enter the water, heard it. She immediately realized it was her boyfriend signaling for help from the underground garage. She quickly left her father to rescue Ryan. Todd requested that Josh follow Jamie. Seeing this, Tina thought there was another competitor and kissed Josh. Josh and Jamie then closed the door to the passage and swam down the stairs to the basement. They worked together to push open the fire door, causing the water in the hallway to flood the underground parking lot. Josh and Jamie quickly swam towards Ryan and Heather. The shark in the water immediately noticed them. Seeing this, Ryan and Heather shouted to warn them about the shark. Josh and Jamie hurriedly climbed onto the nearest car. The shark knocked Josh off the car and then turned around to attack him again. Luckily, Jamie was quick and pulled him out of the water. At that moment, Jamie recognized the car under her feet as her father's. She quickly told Josh that there was a gun in the trunk. Josh was thrilled to hear this. He hurriedly asked Jamie to distract the shark at the other end while he jumped into the car to find the gun. The big shark immediately swam over upon sensing the commotion. With Jamie's cover, Josh quickly found a taser gun and a shotgun. Josh then swiftly climbed onto the car roof, loaded the gun, and fired at the shark, but the shark agilely dodged. The powerful recoil knocked Josh into the water. Seeing this, the shark turned and charged at Josh. Josh decided to crouch at the bottom, planning to engage in close combat. As the shark opened its mouth and approached, Josh seized the opportunity to press the gun against the shark's jaw. This position was perfect for blowing the shark's head off with one shot. The other shark, which was hooked, would soon break free. When the others reached the exit, they found it completely blocked by a large truck, leaving no chance of escape. Doyle happened to see a battery nearby emitting smoke. Then he looked at the power distribution box not far away and came up with another bold idea. He decided to use high-voltage electricity to explode the battery and create an exit. They opened the car hood and pulled out a tow rope. Doyle then pulled the tow rope towards the power distribution box. At this time, Josh, Jamie, and the other two also returned to the scene. All the survivors gathered together. Just as Doyle was about to turn on the power, the mall shook violently again due to the aftershocks from the tsunami. To make matters worse, the shark became furious and broke free from the hook. Josh quickly warned everyone to get on shore. Seeing this, Doyle quickly grabbed the cable and climbed up desperately. They managed to get out of the water just before the shark arrived. The shark then turned and charged at Josh again. Josh, unfazed, pulled out the shotgun to take another shot, but the shotgun jammed at the critical moment. Josh had to quickly discard the shotgun. He then leaped up and grabbed onto an overhead steel pipe. Hanging upside down from it, Josh took the taser gun from his waist. As the shark surfaced, Josh hastily pulled the trigger and shot at the shark. The taser gun fired 2 currents, successfully hitting the shark. A powerful electric current surged through the shark's body, leaving it bewildered. With the taser gun continuously discharging, the shark was finally electrocuted and fell into the water. Doyle then closed the power switch. The lightning-fast current traveled through the wires, exploding the car's battery and creating a violent blast that successfully opened the exit. They then walked out of the mall together, only to find the outside world had turned into a wasteland. Rescue helicopters were hovering in the sky. The ending was a happy one for everyone. Josh and Tina reconciled. Doyle found true love at first sight with Naomi. Jamie and Ryan shared adversity together. A massive tsunami not only submerged the mall but also brought deep-sea killer great white sharks, creating a horrific story of an enclosed space. These people, with different identities and complex relationships, faced a common disaster and experienced a test and purification of humanity. The male and female protagonists initially harbored psychological shadows due to an accident. Through the baptism of disaster, they overcame their inner demons and achieved self-redemption. The robber found new life in the face of danger. The rift between father and daughter was also bridged through their shared ordeal.